Yeah.
Oh, now we're live.
There we are. We're in the song.
Hello, darlings. This is the 10 o'clock news from the EV Café, brought to you today by Geotab, My Energy, the AA, EV Civils, and Interval. I'm John Curtis, and today I'm joined by Paul in Bedford and Sarah in Morocco. So grab a cuppa, buckle up for the latest in sustainability news. And first up, great personal news for Jordan Middleton at Interval, who's just got engaged. He's our sponsor. Thanks a lot, mate.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Well done, Jordan. Woo-hoo.
Nice ring, Jordan. Nice ring. In a week where Mini have confirmed plans to manufacture the electric Mini in Germany and a rival have departed from the UK to the US, loads has surfaced in the world of transport. But first, Paul, that news about a rival, you trailed it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, the possibility of them actually just going bust. But, you know, the fact is they've gone to America for free money. The whole Biden administration throwing money at electric vehicles, which is great news. You know, big country, lot of vehicles. It's good timing to give some money, but I really feel for all the people that have jumped from various ships to jump in and go and take the battle to the market with this wonderful van potentially, but now are going to be left looking around. And I'm gutted for them because it promised so much and has yet to deliver.
I'm just sad about the number of people who are probably looking forward to working there and having a career there, and that supply chain impact. Like when Britishvolt announced their gigafactory, that was 5,000 jobs instantly, and furthermore on the supply chain as well. It's just really sad. It's really sad for UK.
Sarah, in that same story, it talks about the battery industry in the UK and it not being supported, possibly even Britishvolt looking at exiting or selling on the factory. It says government, and we can't say anything to government at the moment because we don't know who we're talking to. But we need some money, we need some investment, we need some incentive for companies to come to the UK.
As if it was planned. New research carried out by the World Benchmarking Alliance highlights an urgent need for the transport sector to collaborate and scale sustainable alternatives to fossil fuels. The group's transport benchmark provides a comprehensive analysis of 90 companies, which covers 25 airlines, 9 rail companies, 6 road companies, 17 shipping companies, and 33 multimodal companies. The research was conducted in partnership with CDP, the non-profit that runs the World Environmental Disclosure System, and assessed companies including American Airlines, Japan Airlines, Ryanair, Qatar Airlines, Maersk, Royal Mail, and FedEx. The research uses the assessing low carbon transition methodology that drives climate action by benchmarking companies against advanced science-based metrics. Transport has the highest reliance on fossil fuels of any sector, with more than 90% of transport energy coming from crude oil derived products. Despite this, only 7% of companies assessed have committed to phasing out their use of fossil fuels. Across all companies, 85% have fleets which are incompatible with a low carbon future, but the majority fail to disclose any plans for changing this. In a world of chaos and maelstrom, there is much for the transport world to do. Wouldn't you agree, Sarah?
Absolutely, and really is a hard nut to crack, particularly aviation. But there are some amazing innovations. Just in Gloucestershire, where I live, there is green biofuels, which are being developed from bugs. Long story short, it's a long process, but essentially the calorific value of a burnt bug isn't too dissimilar to the calorific value of a dead dinosaur.
Wow, isn't that interesting? We've got to stop burning bugs.
Absolutely, it's a crazy time, but I think it's good that we're getting measure of fleets, both air, sea, and land. This measure means that we can manage and hopefully go somewhere with it.
You're exactly right, mate. What gets measured gets managed. We now know the scale of the problem. We have much work to do, but great news, breaking battery news, that there's been an investment from the Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Department the Bays, as we know them, which is investing 211 million into battery R&D through the Faraday Battery Challenge. That brings the total funding for the Faraday Battery Challenge to 541 million pounds to enable the UK to be at the very forefront of battery technology development. And that will mean that it should, by 2040, support 100,000 jobs in the UK. Now, despite all of the doom and gloom, that has to be a signal that good things are happening in our sector, Paul.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it has to be coordinated, it has to be visible, and it has to be sort of grassroots benefiting. So I think, we need to get that money to the right people, get those people engaged in the process, and make sure it's clear. A lot of money in government sits for too long without going to the right places.
For fear of government bashing, because I don't really understand how money of that magnitude reaches the right people. But I also need a bit of context when they release these figures, because I don't know how far 211 money goes. Is that one thing? Or is that a countrywide thing? So yeah, sometimes I get blinded by the numbers and go, wow, that's amazing. But actually, unfortunately, it doesn't equate to much. So I'm asking for a bit of context. They're doing a good job. That's fantastic. I just want to know what it looks like.
That's a really
in all these things, Sarah, with government, their job is to give a framework and certainty around policy, strategy and direction. The government's investment of 541 million, to me, and I'm a massive government basher, but to me, this is a sign to industry that we are serious about our investment plans, about our strategy, and that we are going to develop battery technologies first and fastest here. Paul.
However, we were very quick to point out when Shell highlighted investment of 50 million or 100 million or whatever it was, that actually that was just a tiny, tiny piece of money in the big scheme of things. And I fear that, is it too little in terms of we are thinking about our entire transport future infrastructure, and we're just throwing a couple of hundred million at it when we seem
Well, we touched on this at the Fleet and Mobility Live, though, didn't we, relating to sort of mainstream transport as opposed to this. But private sector funding still exists as well, and there's plenty of that. Unfortunately, a lot of it comes from very spurious sources, probably the oil market. So there's an irony to be had here. But I do remember as a teenager saying that I hoped we would spend any money we had and any resources we had creating renewable energies, rather than trying to panic and build new power stations like we've been doing. So I'm pleased to see this, really pleased to see that we'll lead the battery technology piece.
Yeah, government's job is only to pump prime. It's to put initial investment in to encourage commercial investment to come into the country. It has to be good news, has to be a good start. Right, moving on. Let's get to charging, because Paythrough, bless their little hearts, you may have heard of them before, have been doing some research, and they found that as many as 80% of UK drivers may be deterred from driving an electric vehicle due to poor user experience at the charge point. 80% of UK drivers may be deterred from having an EV. Paythrough's new report, Taming the EV Charging Wild West, presents research which surveyed 2,042 British residents, of which 1,975 were not currently EV drivers. The biggest concern among non-EV drivers was not being able to easily find an electric vehicle charging point when needed. Over half, 54%, said this would put them off getting an EV, and a further 26% said it might. A total of 80%, which is highlighting a major concern. Over half said that having to download different apps to access electric vehicle charging points was a disincentive, and that would or might put them off getting an EV. A similar number said the challenge of understanding and comparing different tariffs for electric vehicle charging would or might put them off. Equally, understanding the additional fees and rules associated with electric vehicles like parking tickets, charging for overstays was an annoyance that would or might put off potential buyers. This is great research, Sarah. You've been busy.
I can't take credit for it. It's a fantastic team at Paythrough, and we consulted with lots of different partners as well. So we're fundamentally trying to change the world of parking and charging. And my main aim is to find a way to put one bill, essentially. So you pay for your parking that also includes charging. The driver then doesn't have to worry about quite what their consumption was during that time. We can reconcile that. So yeah, it's exciting times. Nice to see that our thoughts are echoed with some research. Obviously, the figures are still low. We have like 2,000 data points to make it fully viable, but that's a strong trend in the statistics world with that many people ask. So, but yeah, we know that drivers are worried about apps. We know they're worried about routing and finding a charger that works. I mean, the fundamentals of charge safe. Kate Tyrrell's great work are showcasing this as well. So the reason for doing white paper was just to rally the troops, get some collaboration on board, car park operators, landowners, charge point operators, and to try and make that user experience a little better so that people use that sort of positive pressure around their friends and family to say, don't know what you're worried about, it's really easy actually.
We've got some news.
Not, is it? It's not always that easy.
No, I wish.
In the public charging, I think if you've got the ability to have a home charger, it is. What was interesting about this research was that of 2,042 people, only 1,975, not only 1,975. So how would they wouldn't know only the rumor mill, right? So they wouldn't have had that.
Exactly.
This is the reality of the information that's in the market and how much we've got to change it. And also it shows how small down the road we are, really.
That's what EV Café is trying to do, isn't it? You know, I absolutely love this. People will text me and say, oh, you're supposed to be not working. I'm like, this isn't work. This is our passion. This is what we do. Like being here with you on the show to help people realise that we are doing everything we can to make things change, then all the better. So yeah, that's what the EV Café is for. So that rumour mill needs to spin from a different direction, and that's from the direction of change. We're getting there. Let's keep trying.
Talking of getting there, Paul, commercial vehicles, we're getting there. A new study by the Electric Road Consortium shows that a nationwide electric road system, or ERS, is likely to be the fastest, most efficient way to decarbonise the UK's freight sector. An ERS would consist of overhead electrification wires over the inside lane of key motorways and a nationwide suite of static charging facilities. The consortium is now urging the UK government to fund an ERS pilot on sections of the motorway in the Humber to show how an ERS could be rolled out successfully across the country. Now, this is kind of catenary stuff, I guess, where you have those overhead wires and you have stuff on the top of vehicles that goes up to meet those wires, sucks the electricity in when it's on motorways and trunk roads, and then they charge locally when they need to if they're doing deliveries. Sounds like a good plan, Paul. What do you reckon? Could cut 5% of the total UK greenhouse gas emissions if we use this approach, and uses a third less energy than hydrogen-powered HGVs. It's got to be good, eh?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's interesting. This trial is running with hydrogen alongside. So I believe we're electrifying a section of the M180 up in the sort of northeast, sort of south of the northeast, but sort of, yeah, anyway, that's it doesn't matter. M180, Google it if you're concerned. And we will be, it's almost like a hybrid, right? It's almost like a range extender. So we're powering the batteries whilst we're driving along and then pulling off the main trunk network to deliver. I think it's a great idea. All of these things will take time to come. But we know that, people like Mercedes particularly are investing in long haul trucks, and so these vehicles could well become a part of this. But it's really interesting to see.
Fabulous bit of insight from Colin Hennessy just coming on the chat here. Lloyds Banking Group have just announced that they will stop funding gas and oil projects. That is huge news. Thank you, Colin, for bringing that to our door.
More
Sarah.
on Lloyds, credit where it's due, credit. They also do green lending. So if you can evidence through your ESG structure, they will give you a preferential rate on lending for green projects.
Good work, Lloyds. We're after you. We're coming for you. You could be a new sponsor. Just saying. And finally, bit much. Okay. We have new mugs. We've got new mugs, people. So we've got a new supply coming. They're on their way from the factory as we speak. EV Café mugs on their way, and a new centralized fulfillment system called Paul Kirby. So mugs will be coming out. We are also returning to Zoom for November the 16th because, well, StreamYard's great and we'll continue to use StreamYard and out to LinkedIn and YouTube, but we found that we can get better engagement through Zoom. Your comments come straight into an inbox and we love that. It works better for us being able to connect, bring people onto the show and have your say. So we're going back to Zoom from the 16th of November for our webinar on the last mile delivery just before Christmas. I know. Anyway, we can't thank you enough for tuning in to the news and to our last monthly webinar, which was last Wednesday on the public sector, where we heard from Chris Demetriou from Islington, who's currently advertising for a fleet electrification manager. If you're interested, pop onto LinkedIn, you'll find it there. Sally Jones from Bradford, who spoke brilliantly about the new low emission zone in Bradford, and Craig Hibbert from EV Civils, who's always fabulous and talked about how he's aspiring to be a net zero civils provider. That episode broke all viewing records, and it was because we had great guests, great engagement, and fabulous content. But most of all, we had you. You are the reason why this works so well. Thank you so much. Paul, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Very disappointed about the arrival announcement, the arrival departure from the UK. It's a concerning message. I hope it doesn't become a trend. You know, we have got great manufacturing, great people in the UK that can really make a difference. It would be great to see these people fully utilised to really make the transition happen.
And Sarah, you?
I released the ESG related special news report, which we didn't do during the webinar, so we might get that out this week or next. No time pressure on that, so look out for it. But I think the more we prove that as a nation we are excellent at manufacturing and actually care about the environment as well and are prepared to be regulated on it, then we will stand out globally for that as years to come. The proof will be in the pudding.
Good stuff. Thank you. For me, the great thing about this week has been the amount of engagement we've had. We had over 500 comments on the webinar. We've had massive amounts of comments this morning, really kind words from Keith Woodcock, who said the webinar was just brilliant. Dave Campbell, it was a great webinar. Thank you so much to you. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production. Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just
fun. I had to say that out loud in Rand. There's a lot of people here.
The EV Cafe News is regulated by Bick Stewart at interval, Sparky from My Energy, Tucker from the AA, installed by the EV Civils and monitored by Geotab. The news is performed by unprofessionals. Please do not try this without a safety net. Any query regarding the accuracy of the news should be addressed to Sir Graham Brady, chair of the 1922 committee. He'll be a bit too busy to care. Until next week, thank you all. Love you lots. Bye-bye.
Now, we must remember not to be rude about our guests because we're still live.
Don't speak over